So, this one's going to be again about writing, as the other episode that I've recorded today. So, have a look at the date or just at the channel or something. Maybe it's also recommended here on the side if you're on YouTube. Or it is just a previous episode of the podcast if you're on the podcast. By the way, I should actually check if I'm having enough juice, to operate this whole thing and make this whole thing 5%. It's a little bit of a close call, but I think it is fine. And I'm going to be fine with that. I hope at least, because if I'm just not, then everything is fucked. Quite. Which is not good. Anyway, we're going to talk about, as I said, writing. And since we've gone through Stephen King's book on writing before, on the other episode, we're going to go through William Zinsser's guide to non-fiction writing. In the previous episode, I've been like, I don't really know if this is also applicable to non-fiction, because I have to write non-fiction, and I'm not really just writing a lot of fiction. Therefore, I don't know. And therefore, this is the book maybe that I should be going through on Writing Well by William Zinsser. My favorite explicit directional book on writing better, a must-read for anyone who does any amount of writing. Yes, we're going to go through this one, and since it is not too long, we might also be able to go through another book on writing. I actually kind of hope that we're going to be able to do so, so therefore I'm going to be maybe a little bit faster than normally. Summary notes. I then said that rewriting is the essence of writing. I pointed out that professional writers rewrite their sentences over and over and then rewrite what they have rewritten. Apparently. And I also just believe in that. I mean, there's always, not always, but often ways to communicate things in a better way. The airline pilot who announces that he is presently anticipating experiencing considerable precipitation wouldn't think of saying it may rain. It may rain. The sentence is too simple. There must be something wrong with it, but the secret of good writing is to strip every sentence to its cleanest components. Clear thinking becomes clear writing. One can't exist without the other. The reader is someone who, with an attention span of about 30 seconds, a person assailed by many forces. Very, very interesting. Is this still working? I hope so. Yes. The reader is someone with an attention span of 30 seconds, a person assailed by many forces competing for attention. At one time, for those forces were relatively few: newspapers, magazines, radios, spouse, children, pets. Today, that also include a galaxy of electronic devices for receiving entertainment and information: television, VCRs, DVDs, CDs, video games, internet, email, cell phones, Blackberries, iPods. Isn't Blackberry also a cell phone? Well, as well as a fitness program, a pool, a lawn, and that most potent of competitors, sleep. Writers must therefore constantly ask, what am I trying to say? Surprisingly, often they don't know. Then they must look at what they have written and ask, have I said it? And sometimes you're going to find yourself being like, no, I haven't. Writing is hard work. A clear sentence is no accident. Very few sentences come out right the first time or even the third time. Remembering this in moments of despair. If you find that writing is hard, it is because it is hard. It is indeed hard. Consider all the prepositions that are draped onto verbs that don't need any help. We no longer had committees, we had them up. We don't face problems anymore. We face up to them when we can free up a few minutes. A small detail, you may say, not worth bothering about. It is worth bothering about. Writing improves in direct ratio to the number of things we can keep out of it that shouldn't be there. I see. Up in free shouldn't be there. What? Up in free up shouldn't be there. Examine every word you put on paper. You'll find a surprisingly high number that don't serve any purpose. And I actually kind of think so as well. There must be just really... really a lot of words that just are unnecessary. I don't know. I'm doing it. Yeah, I don't know. I can't just make up some things there. Experiencing is one of the worst clutters. Even your dentist will ask if you're experiencing any pain. If he had his own kid in the chair, he wouldn't say, does it hurt? Experiencing is one of the worst clutters. I just have to rewrite it. Yes, of course. Reread it. Experiencing is one of the worst clutters or clutterers. Even your dentist will ask you if you're experiencing any pain. If he had his own kid in the chair, he wouldn't say, does it hurt? Because yes, it fucking does, probably. Don't inflate what is... I said probably. Don't fuck me because of that. Don't inflate what needs no inflation or inflating, with the possible exception of except, due to the fact that because he totally lacked the ability to, he couldn't until such time as until for the purpose of for. Don't inflate what needs no inflating. I see. It's very, very, very good examples because I'm often doing that and I think it is not good. And I always thought like, you have to really just talk on a very high level and you have to write on a high level, but apparently, no, not really. Most first drafts can be cut by 50% without losing any information or losing the author's voice. But I've also noticed a new reason for avoiding. Americans are unwilling to go out on a limb. Touché. Sell yourself and your subject will exert its own appeal. Believe in your own identity and your own opinions. Writing is an act of ego, and you might as well admit it. Use its energy to keep yourself going. You're writing for yourself. Don't try to visualize the great mass audience. There is no such audience. Every reader is a different person. Or don't try to guess what sort of things editors want to publish or what you think the country is in a mood to read. Editors and readers don't know what they want to read until they read it. Besides, they're always looking for something new. Who am I writing for? The question that begins this chapter has irked some readers. They want me to say, whom am I writing for? But I can't bring myself to say it. It's just not me. You learn to write by writing. It is a truism, but what makes it a truism is that it's true. The only way to learn to write is to force yourself to produce a certain number of words on a regular basis. The most important sentence in any article is the first one. If it doesn't induce the reader to proceed to the second sentence, your article is dead. And if the second sentence doesn't induce him to continue to the third sentence, it is equally dead. Of such progression of sentences, each tugging the reader forward until he is hooked, a writer constructs that fateful unit, the lead. I know the lead. I know the lead that is leading things. But I urge you not to count on the reader to stick around. Readers want to know very soon what is in it for them. The perfect ending should take your readers slightly by surprise and yet seem exactly right. The difference between an active verb style and a passive verb style in clarity and vigor is the difference between life and death for a writer. Joe saw him. What Joe saw him is strong. He was seen by John is weak. Once again, pretty interesting because the funny thing is that Stephen King said the exact same thing. He said that you shouldn't be using passive voice or passive constructions. Joey saw him. He was seen by Joe is weak. The first is short and precise, and it leaves no doubt about who did what. That's indeed the case. Most adverbs and adjectives are unnecessary. Prune out the small words that qualify how you feel and how you think and what you saw. A bit, a little, sort of, kind of, rather, quite, very, too, pretty much, in a sense, and dozens more. They dilute your style and your persuasiveness. There's no much to be said about the period except that most writers don't reach it soon enough. Learn to alert the reader as soon as possible to any change in mood from the previous sentence. At least a dozen words will do this job for you. But, yet, however, nevertheless, still, instead, thus, therefore, meanwhile, now, later, today, subsequently, and several more. I can't overstate how much easier it is for readers to process a sentence if you start with but. When you're shifting direction. Or conversely, how much harder it is if they must wait until the end to realize that you have shifted. Many of us were taught that no sentence should begin with but. If that is what you learned, unlearn it. There is no stronger word at the start. It announces total contrast with what has gone before, and the reader is thereby primed for the change. It makes sense. It really does, and I was also told, don't start a sentence with but. First of all, use however. I know it's the same as but don't use but. But also in German, don't use aber. You shouldn't use aber at the beginning of a sentence or in the beginning of a sentence. I only suggest avoiding one form. I'd, he'd, we'd. By the way, I hate it so much because I never ever know what it is. Because I'd can mean both I had and I would. Yes, and this is my problem. And I never ever know what should I say, And readers can't get well into a sentence before learning which meaning it is. Often it's not the the one they thought it was. Also, don't invent contractions like could have, they cheat me style. Stick with the ones you can find in the dictionary. Nouns that express a concept are commonly used in bad writing instead of verbs that tell what somebody did. Here are 3 typical dad sentences. The common reaction is incredulous laughter. Bemused cynicism is the only response to the old system. The current campus hostility is a symptom of the change. I don't know what's wrong with these sentences. What did it say? Nouns that express a concept are commonly used in bad writing instead of verbs that tell what somebody did. Oh, bemused cynicism. Okay, the cynicism. The current campus hostility. These hostility is a symptom of change. I think I know. Surprisingly, often a difficult problem in a sentence can be solved by simply getting rid of it. You won't write well until you understand that writing is an evolving process and not a finished project. Nobody expects you to get it right the first time or even the second time. Try not to use words like surprisingly, predictably, and of course, which put a value on a fact before the reader encounters the fact. Trust your material. Actually, a simple style is the result of hard work and hard thinking. A muddled style reflects a muddled thinker or a person too arrogant or too dumb or too lazy to organize his thoughts. Pretty harsh, but I do want to say it's probably the truth. My favorite definition of a careful writer comes from Joey DiMaggio. Though he didn't know what he was defining, that's what he was defining. DiMaggio was the greatest player I've ever saw, and nobody looked more relaxed. He covered vast distances in the outfield, moving in graceful strides, always arriving ahead of the ball, making the hardest catch look routine, and even he was at the bat hitting the ball with tremendous power. He didn't appear to be exerting himself. I marvel at how effortless he looked because what he did could only be achieved by great daily effort. A reporter once asked him how he managed to play so well so consistently, and he said, I always thought that there was at least one person in the stands who had never seen me play, and I didn't want them to let him down. I didn't want to let him down or her down, which by the way is pretty nice, kind of. Really is nice. And this is it with On Writing Well by William Zinsser. So some things that I've just seen: don't use adverbs, which was said by King. Don't use too many adjectives. Don't use but. Use but in the beginning of a sentence. Don't use nouns that should kind of explain something. Seems to be not good. It's too complicated. Which, by the way, I'm always doing these things. Maybe this is the reason why my writing isn't that good, because it is a little bit muddled. It's a little bit like foggy. Foggy in the sense of it isn't clear enough. And I really am looking up to those people that can write very clean. And I know a person, maybe someday you're going to see this, and I've told you that I like your writing. And I appreciate that, and you should always be grateful for that, But there is another book, which is The Elements of Style by William Strunk, which it's not that much, so we're going to be able to go through it. The Elements of Style by William Strunk, rated 8 out of 10. The links to those books are going to be down in the description as always. Some very important lessons for the aspiring writer. The best way to use it is to read through it and find examples where you can't immediately tell what is wrong, study the explanations and then apply those learnings to your own writing. The active voice is usually more direct and vigorous than the passive. I shall always remember my first visit to Boston. This is much better than my first visit to Boston will always be remembered by me. It is way too complicated. It really is. The latter sentence is less direct, less bold, and less concise. Many a tame sentence of description or exposition can be made lively and emphatic by substituting a verb in the active voice for some such perfunctory expression as there is or could be heard. There were a great number of deal leaves lying on the ground. Dead leaves covered the ground. The sound of a guitar somewhere in the house could be heard. Somewhere in the house a guitar hummed sleepily. The reason that he left college was that his health became impaired. Failing health compelled him to leave college. It was not long before he was very sorry that he had said what he had. I can't read today. He soon repeated his work, repented his words, yes, used the word not as means of denial or in antithesis, never as means of evasion. Which means, and there's always examples, which is something that I appreciate. He was not very often on time. He usually came late. Yeah, it's way too complicated. Like, I think boiling everything down that all of these people said is make it simple. As simple as you fucking can. He didn't think that studying Latin was what was much use. He thought the study of Latin useless. Does this work? I don't know. The taming of this crew is rather weak in spots. Shakespeare does not portray Catherine as a very admirable character, nor does Bianca remain long in memory as an important character in Shakespeare's works. The women in the taming of this crew are unattractive. Catherine is disagreeably, Bianca is insignificant. Concisely or unconsciously, the reader is dissatisfied with being told only what is not. The wishes to be told what it is, or what is, hence, as a rule, it is better to express even a negative in positive form. Not honest, dishonest. Not important, trifling. Did not remember, forgot. Did not remember, forgot about it. Did not pay any attention to, ignored. Did not have much confidence in, distrusted. Prefer the specific to the general, the definite to the vague, the concrete to the abstract. A period of unfavorable weather set in. It rained every day for a week. He showed satisfaction as he took possession of his well-earned reward. He grinned as he pocketed the coin. There is a general agreement among those who have enjoyed the experience that surf riding is productive of great exhilaration. All who have tried surf riding agree that it is most exhilarating. Exhilarating. Or is it exhilarating? Yes, it is. Vigorous writing is concise. A sentence should contain no unnecessary words, a paragraph no unnecessary sentence, for the same reason that a drawing should have no unnecessary lines and a machine no unnecessary parts. I'm not sure about the drawing. This requires not that the writer make all his sentences short or that he avoid all detail and treat his subjects only in outline, but that he make every word tell. In especial the expression, the fact that should be revised out of every sentence in which it occurs, owing to the fact that because, in spite of the fact that, though or although, call your attention to the fact that, remind you, notify you. A common violation of conciseness is the presentation of a single complex idea step by step in a series of sentences or independent clauses which might to advantage be combined into one. Macbeth was very ambitious. This led him to wish to become king of Scotland. The switches told him that this wish of his would come true, the kind of, blah, 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 blah. We know it, which is 51 words. Encouraged by his wife, Macbeth. Isn't this passive? Encouraged by his wife. Well, I don't know. Macbeth achieved his ambition and realized the prediction of the witches by murdering Duncan and becoming king of Scotland in his place. 26 words, so it's actually half. Interesting, even less than half of it. No, it is exactly half of it. Interesting, avoid this word as a perfunctory means of introduction. Instead of announcing that what you are about to tell is interesting, make it so. An interesting story is told of, tell the story without preamble, which is something that the other one also said, William whatnot, I guess, doesn't he? I'm very sorry for my bad reading today. It's actually very awful. I hope that I'm gonna do better in the evening when I'm recording the other episode that I have to record today, because I need some stuff for the next week, I think. But yeah, anyway, I wish you the best. And yeah, I wish you the best health, happiness, and also success, and also hope that you're gonna remind yourself and you're gonna be remembered, which basically means your legacy. Basically means just being a nice person and then also being remembered as a nice person. 3 other questions that I have you are: why are you here? What are you trying to change, and what is bothering you the most? These 3 questions are hopefully gonna show you your purpose and maybe even a business idea, which is a good thing. Another question is: what could you do? What could you make? What could you change that really helps somebody in the now, in 10 years, or really a lot, or just a tiny little bit? Doesn't matter. You can make something that's amazing. And yeah, with that being said, hopefully gonna see you the next time. Bye bye, stay healthy, please, kind, generous, and patient.